So the guys, Savage, Walker, and Watson did not participate. Limited were Jair, Devondre, A.J. Dillon, Rashawn Gary, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Owens, Jaden Reed, and Devontae Wyatt.
What's the issue with Quay? Was that from Sunday?
Yes.
What did Aaron Jones do today?
He was limited.
Just individual, or did you go through, get some team stuff?
He was limited.
Matt, I think the other day I asked you about if you had a feel for whether Christian's hamstring was going to be as long or shorter than the last one, and you said they were doing some testing. What did you find out?
Yeah, I can't really declare that one way or the other. So I know he's getting the treatment, and hopefully it'll be sooner rather than later.
Matt, the first drive against the Chiefs, a whole bunch of different guys touched the ball with receptions. Obviously, AJ was running it. Getting that many guys involved right away, was that a conscious effort on your part with the play calling? Did it just work out as far as reads and progressions for Jordan, or how did that go?
I would say it's a combination of all that. Certainly, when you're putting in these plays, you have an idea of where they could go based on the coverages, but you got to hit on some of those coverages, and then everything needs to be perfect from a protection standpoint to the quarterback's rhythm and timing and his decision making, and it just happened to work out that way. So, but yeah, it was all in all, it was really good execution.
How valuable is that when that many guys can get involved in the offense right out of the gate like that?
Yeah, I just think it gets them into a flow, gives them some confidence, and hopefully it, goes throughout the entirety of the game.
You faced a blitz-happy team last week, and I think the Giants are probably more so, at least by the numbers. Is there any carryover from your perspective on how you attack or protect, or are they just two totally different schemes, and you kind of have to start anew there?
Do you want me to give you the game plan?
No, I just
Okay.
was wondering if it's. Well, I guess I see your point there, but I'm just wondering if it's.
Thanks, Bill.
But is it a totally different scheme that the Giants run compared to?
I would say there's certain things that are similar. Coach Martindale is a guy that I've had experience going against quite a few times, and when he was in Baltimore, and he kicked the crap out of us when I was in Tennessee, and he was in Baltimore. That was a real humbling day, but he's a guy that he does a great job just putting people in position. He presents a lot of different challenges for an offense. And I got a ton of respect for what he's capable of doing and what he's done over the course of his career. But I think their defense, they present a lot of problems. They kind of just, you never feel easy going against a team that he's coaching, and because he knows, he can deploy a number of different blitzes and a number of different looks, and I'm certain that coming off a bye week as well, I'm sure there's going to be something that they haven't put on tape. That's typically the case, and our guys are going to really have to trust their rules, and in terms of preparing for that.
Has the passing game, obviously it's grown over the last several weeks, has your ability to handle the blitz kind of grown in parallel with that?
Well, I think that just throughout the course of the season, we've encountered a ton of different challenges from different schemes that have kind of prepared us for some of the things that could potentially come up. That's just kind of the way the year's worked out. And I know we put a lot of time and emphasis in the off season in terms of preparing for some of these pressure situations, and it's served us well up to this point. Now we got to go do it again.
Is it your sense over the years that Wink is better than most at picking up tendencies or, cracking the code on an offense?
Yeah, I think he's one of the best in the business. So like I said, I got a ton of respect for him.
You go into like last week, did you go into the game with a certain amount of snaps you wanted A.J. Dillon to play, or are you playing it by gut? And it looked like early on you used him a lot and then had to back off a little bit. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, I think that just is kind of how it played out. Ben does a really good job of subbing in his backs, and we kind of give him autonomy over that unless I absolutely want a certain individual. But he's got a good feel for watching those guys and subbing in, whether it's PT or we had Robinson last week, and so he just it's a lot just monitoring that position, and he does a good job with that.
As you kind of referenced, is there a tendency to want to keep them in, because you're trying to run some kind of
Yeah, that usually happens at least once or twice a game where I'm wanting a certain guy, and whether it's him or a wideout or somebody, and the position coach usually comes back and says that they need a breather. So, but that happens quite frequently.
You've used the term war daddy a bunch. Would Malik Heath fit that description? And what have you been most impressed with how he's kind of handled himself off the field with maybe some of the questions that surrounded him coming out of the draft?
Yeah, he's been great. I think he constitutes a war daddy. He brings great energy and a physical presence to that position that I think is, can kind of shape your offense in a different light. So, but as far as in the building, off the field, he's been awesome. I got no complaints. He comes in every day with a smile on his face and just gets to work. And I think you've seen a lot of growth in him, just in his ability to, within game, move him around a little bit, play different positions. That wasn't necessarily the case earlier in the year, I would say. And we've flipped him between the X and the Z, and he's done a really nice job with that.
What do you think of what the Giants had in DeVito and his growth just in his limited reps this year?
Yeah, he looks like a guy that if you give him time, he can make you pay. There's no question. They've got some dangerous receivers with Hyatt and Slayton and guys that can really run and take the top off. Obviously, we all know about Saquon and his ability. I mean, he's an elite back, one of the best in the business. And but I think Tommy's done a really nice job going in there and distributing the ball and making off-schedule plays and making some tight window throws.
Hey, Matt, where's the left tackle rotation at now? Yash only played 8 snaps. Are you trending toward that being a one-guy job?
I would say it's going to be, it's kind of each week could be a different story.
Are you maybe a little bit more hesitant to continue that with Thibodeau's really, I think he's got 11 sacks, and he mostly faces the left tackle. Does it kind of, I don't want to say give you pause on a rotation, but just to have that continuity there?
Not necessarily. I would say this too. I think, pass rushers, they kind of get a feel for linemen, and when they face different ones, it can throw them off a little bit too. But Thibodeau is obviously a great player, a guy that we absolutely have to make sure we take care of and know where. I mean, you said it. I mean, he's on the left side, but just make sure that we do whatever we can so he doesn't wreck the game, because he's had 11 sacks, he's had multiple forced fumbles, and he can be a real game wrecker.
What have you thought about Corey Ballentine, just what he's given you this year in sort of that spot role, stepping up on the perimeter?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job just going in there, competing, again, bringing a physical presence to the back end that I think is so imperative. So I couldn't be happier for him and for what he's done for us. Whether it's on defense, on special teams, he's always ready to answer the bell.
Speaking of physicality, obviously the hit on Mahomes by Owens last Sunday was flagged, but is that the type of hit that you want? Is that what you want your safeties to play like?
Yeah, as long as it's between the white lines, absolutely.
What does it bring to your team when you have a guy that's not going to give an inch? He's not just going to let the guy go out of bounds, but he wants to bring that physicality.
Yeah, I think that it brings an edge to your defense, and I don't know a good defense that doesn't play with an edge.
What's been behind your success with your defense's ability to pressure without having to send extra guys?
Really good players. I would say like we got some really good D linemen, whether it's RG, whether it's P, Kenny Clark. I mean, all those guys up front, TJ, all those guys have done a good job. I think it's a credit to, I would say, Rebs and JMO, their relationship. I think we're much better at running line stunts than we have been maybe in the past. And those guys playing off one another, being unselfish, setting the pick for another guy. That is a real value, I think, when you can rush 4, drop 7 into coverage and still get to the quarterback. I think some of the teams that those are some of the best defenses in the league when you're able to get pressure with a 4-man rush.
Hey, Matt, in addition to learning that outside linebackers are defensive ends, I didn't realize that not every play had a can attached to it until you explained that a couple weeks ago. I'm curious, what did Jordan show you? Because we talked about it on Monday a little bit. It sure looked like you gave him more freedom, and he canned more often than he had before. What did he show you that made you more comfortable to give him that opportunity, and how did you think he did with it?
I just think it kind of naturally happened, and it happens in practice, and you don't necessarily talk about something, and he does it, and it's like, oh, that was well done. It's just you got to have a reason for everything you do, and I think just the more that he's put into certain situations, the more trust he's earned. He's earned that respect and that trust, and I do think it's been a benefit for him being around here for a couple of years and seeing Aaron do some of that stuff and then learning from that. But ultimately, when he's had to go out there and do it, he's done a great job with it and got us in and out of some bad plays the other night and put us into some good protection situations that weren't necessarily talked about, but he saw a certain look, and that gives us a lot of confidence as a coaching staff that if you don't always have to be perfect, because I know as a play caller, you'd always like to have the perfect play call or have the perfect can on a play. And certainly when it's not that, and you have a guy that can get it right, then that's a huge advantage.
So he's not going to bat 1,000 either with those, right? But
no, there was a couple times where it's not necessarily perfect, but the thing is you can't have it both ways. So you just talk about it and you move on. But I would say for the most part, he's done a really, really good job.
So does it change things for you though, in terms of, you obviously had what you had with Aaron, which he had this ridiculous Rolodex of all kinds of things you could pull out of thin air. But does it change things for you offensively that Jordan, I know you talked a little bit about it there, but that this is another layer to your offense now? Wasn't there 6 weeks ago, certainly not to the same extent.
Yeah, I think, and that's all of us kind of growing together, I would say. Just having really good conversations, learning from past experiences, and then making adjustments along the way. But, he puts a lot of time and effort into this thing, and I think he's got a really good grasp of what we're trying to get accomplished, sometimes without us even telling him. And that's a credit to him. And,
More, please.
Most fun you've had calling plays in a long time, just the way things are flowing, the fluidity, and just seeing the progress on the field as you're kind of making these calls?
Yeah, I think anytime you're seeing improvements, that's very rewarding, because that's all you want. You want those guys to go out there and continue to work to get better, and the work they're putting in it's been amazing. The energy's been amazing. Like today, I feel like was one of our best practices. In terms of it wasn't flawless by any means. There's stuff to learn from and some mistakes that were made, but just in terms of the things that you can control, the energy level, your effort, your attitude has been off the charts, and certainly when you're getting the results, that makes it more fun as well. But like I said, you're only as good as your last game, and we got a great challenge in front of us on Monday Night Football.
Matt, your team has bought into the taking one at a time thing pretty well. Is it easier said than done? Have you been on teams in the past where it didn't work like that as much as you'd like?
I think that's a better question for the guys in the locker room, quite frankly. I know from my standpoint, I can only speak for myself. I feel like that's just how my brain works. I have a hard time seeing past what's today, and so that's something that we preach, and it's on them whether or not they want to feed into that. But I do think that, you know, just from what I've seen in my time here, and specifically with this team, these guys have totally approached it that way.